Dang it, I didn't change the orientation. Oh well. Um, this here is just gonna be a quick little live stream. I know they're doing the opening statements for the for the Brian Walsh case, but I do have an hour here to introduce the an overview of the case. With that being said, welcome, all credit to Grizzly True Crime. With that being said, let's get into it.
My goal today is to make sure that you feel fully ready for the Brian Walsh trial, which is starting with opening statements on December 1st of 2025. Now, he's facing first-degree murder charges for the murder of his wife, Anna Walsh, who was last seen alive on January 1st of 2023.
Brian, what do you want the public to know about this case?
Hours earlier, her husband, Brian Walsh, appeared to smile as he left the Cohasset Police Department in handcuffs. In court, prosecutors detailed the chilling evidence found in his Cohasset home.
Blood was found in the basement area, as well as a knife which also contains some blood.
Now, if you look behind me here, this is a map of Massachusetts. I can't really say Boston, Massachusetts, because he went all over the place. Like, my goodness, look at all these points that are plotted out, and we can go over this, especially during the trial day. So if you can pop in, if there's breaks or if there's anything that they're trying to explain, and we want to know, well, when did that happen exactly? Today, we're going to look at a chronological timeline. We're also going to look at what he said versus what the police actually found he was doing. For example, visiting 6 different dumpsters over 5 days. So, in order to do this, to plot this out, I've had to go through 462 pages of search warrants and, of course, the probable cause affidavit, which we've read together before. This is available on the playlist, which is linked in the description box and the pinned comments for you. So if you've missed all my previous coverage, there's lots to catch up on there if you want to. But if you don't want to, I'd love you to, but don't worry. Just watch this video and you'll be fully prepared. Okay, so are we ready now to deep dive this case and get fully ready for the Brian Walsh trial? Please note that this content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share. So Anna Walsh, maiden name Knip, was a 39-year-old real estate executive and mother of 3, originally from Belgrade, Serbia. She moved to the United States in 2005 and worked in hospitality before becoming a regional general manager for Tishman Speyer, a real estate firm in Washington, D.C. She was last seen alive on January 1st of 2023. Her husband, Brian Walsh, has been charged with her murder and faces a sentence of life without parole if convicted. Now, they've never found her body, so this is a challenging case for the state to prove, but I think based on the digital forensic data and his own statements, it's going to get interesting. I think the state can definitely prove this case. What do you think, based on what you know so far? If you know nothing, let's keep going. Brian and Anna met in 2008 while she was working at a luxury hotel in Boston, where Brian was a guest. In 2014, Anna had filed a police report saying that her boyfriend, who was living in Massachusetts, had threatened to kill her and a friend. Now, she didn't name the boyfriend, but she was dating Brian at the time, so we could put 2 and 2 together, right? The case was closed as Anna did not pursue it further. Approximately 1 year later, they were engaged, and on December 21st of 2015, they were married at Emmanuel Episcopal Church in Boston. Now, some people might say, well, if she filed a police report and was saying that he is threatening to kill her and a friend, why would she marry him? We see it happen a lot. Domestic violence and coercive control has patterns. And unfortunately, a lot of people get trapped in those relationships, because of the love bombing, the apologizing, the unexpected abuse that comes out of nowhere. And it often takes the victim up to 7 times to actually leave the abuser And the problem is, if they don't leave, that often ends in homicide. And here we are at a murder trial. So, yeah, I do think that there's a red flag going up for him for sure that he was a domestic abuser. They had 3 young sons, ages 2, 4, and 6, and a German shepherd named Hans at the time of Anna's disappearance in January of 2023. They lived in Cohasset, Massachusetts, an affluent suburb south of Boston, but their marriage was reportedly strained, with Anna commuting to D.C. for work and Brian stuck at home.
They had many fights about, like, when are we finally gonna come to DC? When am I gonna be with my kids? That was her priority. And so I know they were experiencing a lot of stress together, and I know it had been a very tense Christmas. So, I mean, a lot of that we discussed also. But really, never an indication that she feared for her life. Never an indication that she felt unsafe even. It was just a frustration of, like, I just want to be with my kids. I just want to be back here. She always described him as her best friend.
So why was he stuck at home?
Yeah.
Oh, Brian, a former art consultant, was unemployed and under federal scrutiny for fraud, on house arrest, awaiting sentencing. On May 21st of 2018,
So in other
Anna
words,
posted this photo on Instagram, and she told friends it was from.
So in other words, he couldn't work due to him already being a felon for fraud. Should did better.
Fall from work. She said, mild concussion, bruised hip, and a cut, #vulnerability. I put the purple ribbon here for domestic violence awareness. Now, Brian's father, Dr. Thomas Walsh, was a prominent neurologist who disinherited Brian in 2018, citing his son's lack of common sense and propriety. Brian unsuccessfully sued over the estate when his father died. His father actually traveled to India, and he died in India in September of 2018. And then Brian realized, wait, I'm not inheriting anything. He'd apparently stolen lots of money from his own family members, which is why his dad's like, I'm leaving him out of the will. In April of 2021, Brian pleaded guilty in federal court to defrauding art buyers involving forged Andy Warhol Shadows paintings for over $80,000. By late 2022, their marriage was strained. Anna had confided in friends about Brian's controlling behavior and financial irresponsibility, and she was actively planning to leave him, including discussions about relocating the children to DC. The kids' clothes and other items were already there, ready for them, and this is based on the documents. So she was really getting ready to leave him, and as we know, in DV relationships, what's the most dangerous time for a victim? When they want to leave.
Yep.
Prosecutors have revealed that Anna was involved in an affair with a DC real estate professional, William Fasto, named in the documents on the potential witness list. So we're probably going to see him testify. I think that's going to be very uncomfortable for him, right? But this relationship had become serious by December of 2022. She actually spent Thanksgiving with him in Dublin, Ireland, and she spent Christmas Eve with him as well. By December of 2022, Brian suspected that his wife was having an affair and was routinely visiting the Instagram page of one of her male friends. Now, I can imagine that the defense attorneys are going to really lean into this affair to victim blame, to cast doubt that maybe somebody else killed her, or I don't know. I think they're going to bring it up a lot. The other thing is that the state might say that Brian's motive was that he found out about this affair and then he decided to kill Anna. But that's going to be difficult as well, because even if someone finds out about an affair, it doesn't automatically mean that they're going to kill the person. Proving that Brian committed first degree premeditated murder it's gonna be challenging. I'm looking forward to see the strategies between the state and the defense attorneys and how this will all play out in the courtroom, and I really hope that there will be justice for Anna. Now just remember, because I know I'm sure there'll be some people that are going to victim blame and shame. We don't do that over here. Now, I'm not supporting anybody having affairs. That is not right to do. What I am saying, though, is if somebody does something wrong, it does not mean that murder is justified. Like, never take anyone's life, right? He should have just divorced her then and moved on with his life. But no, he decided to do something else. Now, here's the thing. Look at this red flag. The documents say on December 20th of 2022, Anna took out a $2.2 million life insurance policy, naming Brian as the sole beneficiary. Ooh, I want to hear more about that at the trial. Because I suspect that he, the con man, the guy that commits fraud and forgery and all that, I think that he would have taken that out and, on her behalf. You know what I mean? Pretending to be her? Did she take it out? And if she did, that's such odd timing. Did he convince her to? Because that is dangerous. If she's wanting to leave him, she's already moving the kids' stuff. Oh my word, the life insurance policy, yeah, I would argue that's a huge motive for him. He was in financial trouble. He didn't get, his father's inheritance. He's now facing all these fraud charges at the time. So, oh my, a $2.2 million life insurance taken out, a new one, and she already had one at work. And so the total of these together was $2.7 million, and Brian was the sole beneficiary. So yeah, I would argue that is the motive, and I would imagine the state would focus on that and not the affair. Like, focus on the financial motive for him, right? The gains that he thought he could get, but like, oh well, the relationship's over anyway. She wants to leave me anyway. She's with some other guy anyway. She wants to go to DC and she wants to take the kids. Okay, life insurance, you know what I mean? Let me know what you think. So December 26th of 2022, he asked his mother to hire a private investigator to surveil Anna in Washington, DC, which apparently his mother did. But from everything I've read, they say that no evidence was found. Now that's, of course, December 26th. I mean, it's 5 days before she was last seen. Not even 4 days before she was last seen alive. So I don't know if much happened there, but the thing is she was flying between DC and Massachusetts, going back and forth before Christmas, after Christmas, that in-between period as well. And she was actually expected to return back to Washington, D.C. on January 4th of 2023. But yeah, by January 1st, never seen again. On December 27th of 2022, Brian made an internet search. Oh, and we're going to get to his internet searches. That said, what's the best state to divorce for a man? For a man? Like, why for a man? So, like, what's the best state to divorce? Best state? But you live in Massachusetts, bro? Where you going? But it's like, what's the best state to divorce for a man? Okay. So he was looking into that. But then he decided otherwise, clearly. Now, on December 28th of 2022, at a dinner in DC, prosecutor Greg Connor said in previous hearings that Anna became uncharacteristically upset and told a friend that she believed that Mr. Walsh was going to be incarcerated as a result of his federal case, and that she was prepared to leave him and take the children to Washington, D.C. Anna flew home on December 30th, and she was expected back in D.C. on January 3rd of 2023, so not the 4th, the 3rd. Man, to also think of whatever escalated there for Brian Walshe, because it's pretty dumb of him to be like, oh, she had to leave for a work emergency on January 1st, when she was actually going to leave on January 3rd. Now, we're not here to give any killers tips or tricks. I'm just saying if he waited until January 3rd, that would be more believable that she was going to work, but also so easy to debunk because she didn't get on any flights. So his story just never added up. Surveillance also never showed her leaving the house, I don't know who he thinks he's fooling. Well, he thought he was fooling the police. Clearly not. Now, Anna was last seen alive on January 1st of 2023 at their home in Cohasset. Brian and Anna had a friend, Jem Mutlu, over for dinner for New Year's Eve. Brian told him that he misplaced his phone. So if you look at all of this in hindsight, Brian's telling this friend, who apparently was Anna's previous manager, I misplaced my phone. Okay, premeditated. That could show some premeditation.
Yeah.
Then, unless he really actually misplaced his phone, but apparently not. We're going to go over that. Jem left around 1:30 a.m. and Anna was never seen again. Brian texted this friend on January 2nd of 2023 to tell him that he found his phone. See that? That's some odd behavior. Why do you need to tell him that? Why do you need to say, hey, I misplaced my phone? Want to be my alibi? Okay, and then, hey, look, I found my phone. But his phone was unlocked with his own passwords on January 1st. It was plugged into charge. So, yeah, this has all been debunked by data.
It was festive. She was texting with friends, and, she was sitting next to me at the bar stool and at their kitchen. There was absolutely no indication that any modicum of a tragedy of disappearance or anything else could have happened that night.
On January 1st of 2023, and trigger warning, my goodness, these Google searches are like, oh wow, Uncle Google's really gonna get you in this one, hey? How long before a body starts to smell? That was on January 1st of 2023 at 4:55 a.m. Remember the friend left between 1 and 1:30 a.m.? Damn, by 4:55, Brian Walshe is Googling how long before a body starts to smell. And you know who he says actually did this Google search? His son, because he used his son's iPad. And when police are like, what the hell is this? He's like, I don't know, maybe Anna did it. They're like, but you said Anna left. Maybe my son, I think my son did it. They're like, your 6-year-old son Googled this? I don't think so. Oh my word. He also, if you look at the times on the right hand side, you see there 4:58 a.m. How to stop a body from decomposing. How to embalm a body. 10 ways to dispose of a dead body if you really need to. Question mark. How long for someone to be missing to inheritance? Oh my word, this guy's financial motive. You see that? You see that? That's what I would argue it is. Cohasset dump. Hingham dump. Can you throw away body parts? Oh my goodness, at 6:34 a.m. It's like pre-coffee. What is this guy doing? This is so crazy. Oh my word, these searches are quite something. What does formaldehyde do? How long does DNA last? Can identification be made on partial human remains? Dismemberment and best ways to dispose of a body. How to clean blood from
These
wood floor.
searches
Luminol
did
to
him
detect
in.
blood. What happened when you put body
This guy's a damn idiot. Do you not know they're gonna go through your internet history? Your internet history is basically an internet history of how do I get away with unaliving somebody. That's basically what your internet history is, you goofy idiot. And me personally, I hope they find you guilty, and I hope they give you the death penalty. Let's get back into this, jackass.
blood? What happened when you put body parts in ammonia? And is it better to throw away crime scene clothes or wash them?
Dumbass.
You really gonna ask that? You're gonna ask the internet that, whether Safari, Google, whatever? Is it better to throw away crime scene clothes or wash them? I don't know. Is that not a rhetorical question?
Really, man?
Never mind. We like
You're
it when they dumb
dumbass.
criminals, okay? Now, let's look at the timeline, okay? Here we go. January 1st of 2023. He told police that Anna kissed him goodbye and left between 6 and 7 a.m. to go to DC for a work emergency. He says the babysitter that he arranged arrived at 2:30 p.m. while he ran some errands. And yeah, that's where the map starts going, okay? He says he went to Shaw's to get milk and orange juice. He dropped that off at home when he went to his mother's house then in Swampscott around 4 p.m. He says he got lost along the way, took a whole other route, and says he usually used his cell phone GPS, but he didn't know how to use the Volvo GPS. You see, he says that one of his children took his phone, so he likes to blame the kids for a lot of things. That the kids did these Google searches, that one of the kids took the phone, and he says he found it under their pillow in their bed on January 2nd.
Whatever,
Now, data
dude.
shows that it was plugged in on January 1st. Evidence shows that he had the phone with him on multiple trips. So you can just imagine the digital forensic expert in this case is going to be showing all of that. That her phone's going, his phone's going, although her phone stopped pinging on January 2nd at 3:14 a.m. I always thought it was on January 1st, but it's actually on January 2nd. So he kept her phone on for a while, traveled with it a little bit, and on January 2nd at 3:14 a.m., her phone stopped reporting to the network. Now, he says he arrived at his mother's house, straight to Mama's house, okay, at 5:30 p.m., was there for 15 minutes, and says he went to Whole Foods and CVS for her. He says he bought frozen foods for her and alcohol wipes, and he actually didn't go there. So he's saying you went there. Another story that he peppered in along the way in the multiple police interviews that he had was that his mother had recent cataract surgery and she was staying with him. And then on January 1st, she left his house to go to her house. He was supposed to drive her, but she ended up recovering quicker than he thought and she drove herself home. Now, I have questions about that. Did she actually stay there? Or is that just an entirely made up story? Because what a scary
Yeah, that
thought to
story
think
sounds
if his
weird.
mother had stayed there. Not that we've seen this mentioned anyway. It's like the New Year celebration doesn't involve his mother from everything I've read. But if she had stayed there, my goodness, and she was in the house too. The kids were in the house when he allegedly murdered Anna, dismembered her. Prosecutors believe in the basement. That's what investigators found, evidence and everything in the basement, right? Even a bloody knife still in the basement. While the kids were at home, while the babysitter's there. My word, okay. So I just mean there's like people in this house, kids, babysitter, maybe his mom, while he's doing these absolutely horrendous things. And I do wonder if he told anyone, do not go into the basement, okay? Do not. It's like off limits right now. Who knows? Now, I don't think, based on the map and all the evidence that I've read about, that he actually went to his mother's house at all on the day. He went near it, okay? But he didn't actually go to see his mother from everything that I have read. Let's look at the little snippet above, which says, phone was later given to investigators on consent and the data extraction was performed. The review of data revealed on January 1st, Brian's cell phone was manually unlocked, which is during the period that he said it was missing. The password for the phone was entered at 7:57 a.m., 11:24 a.m., 12:39 p.m., and 12:46 p.m. on January 1st of 2023. Trooper Garino and Trooper Keefe conducted a forensic review of the data extracted from the iPad mini that was given to Lieutenant Fanning by Brian. Brian said that the iPad and continues on, right? So you can just see the point of that is that he says, oh no, the phone was misplaced. One of his kids took it. He only found it on January 2nd, but yet it was manually unlocked with his password at all those different times and had traveled. Let's look at the evidence. We heard his story from January 1st. Now, what does the evidence show? Investigators found video of him at Danvers CVS purchasing and shoplifting cleaning products.
Really?
Okay. At 5:13 p.m., surveillance showed him and his vehicle at a dumpster in the parking lot of Vin Liquor Store, retrieving a black garbage bag from the trunk and discarding it in a dumpster near his mother's house. At 6:05 p.m., he went to Lowe's in Danvers location and bought $450 worth of tools, a hacksaw, and cleaning supplies like rags, trash bags, soap, a framing hammer, terry cloths.
So in other words, not only they got proof of him discarding the body, they have proof of him buying a cleanup kit. Bruh, you're torched. You're done. You're done. You're like done. You're done.
And a handsaw. They said investigators obtained surveillance video from Lowe's Danvers location and determined that Brian Walsh was present at Lowe's on January 1st of 2023. Brian is seen shopping, and then at approximately 6:05 p.m., he's seen purchasing over $450 worth of tools such as a hacksaw and cleaning supplies. The surveillance video shows Brian Walsh is by himself and not in the company of any children, relatives, or friends. Brian had not previously disclosed this trip to investigators. Yeah, there's a few of those that he did not disclose. So if we look at this map, and we actually start our little slideshow here, we go from Brian and Anna's home, right? January 1st of 2023. And then he goes towards his mother's house, which is in Swampscott, okay? So he's going towards there. He's visiting dumpsters in the area. He then goes to this Vinin liquor store area. And then, let's see here, same day, he visits a CVS on January 1st in this Danvers area, which is far from his house. It's closer to his mother's house, right? And then he also on the same day goes to a Lowe's and he purchases the $450 worth of tools, including that hacksaw and a hatchet and all of that, right? And then, of course, back to his house. Now, here we go to January 2nd and 4th and all of that. So let's continue with our presentation. I just wanted to show you where that was. And in fact, if you want to see, if I zoom out here, I mean, here's their home, and he traveled all the way. Look there. He traveled all this way to his mother's house, but says he was there for 15 minutes and went to Whole Foods and CVS. And the CVS and Whole Foods he mentioned, man, investigators spent a lot of time, many, many hours, as they said in the documents, poring over the surveillance footage, and he was not there. So they knew he was lying. That's why he got charged with misleading the police, right?
The I-Team reporting that investigators have video showing him near a liquor store dumpster in Swampscott that is across the street from his mother's condo.
So, to continue on with our chronological timeline, it says several of the internet searches conducted on January 1st of 2023 occurred prior to the time that Brian stated he had last received a kiss from his wife before she left the Walsh residence. The searches for how long before a body starts to smell and how to stop a body from decomposing occurred less than 4 hours after the time when Anna was last seen alive at the Walsh residence by Mutlu. Brian told the babysitter that he needed her to babysit on January 1st from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. so that he and Anna could go for brunch. Like, brunch is breakfast and lunch. I don't know, isn't lunch between 12 and 2? And breakfast before that? So to say, you need to come babysit tomorrow so that I could take Anna for brunch is a very odd thing to say. He didn't say lunch, he didn't say dinner, he didn't say on an outing, he's like, brunch. Is it just me? Isn't that weird? He just can't keep his story straight. Now, when she arrived that day, 1:45 p.m., obviously Anna was no longer there, right? Well, she was probably in the basement, and he was off to buy a whole bunch of tools. Now, she arrived, and Brian told her, oh, Anna had to go to Washington, D.C. for a work emergency. He then left the home to run some errands. She said he was always quite calm and collected, but he seemed quite preoccupied on that day. And he returned between 4 and 5 p.m. to drop off pizza for the kids. Now, remember he said he went to Shaw's to buy milk and orange juice? Well, he actually went to get pizza. And it was along this whole journey. I mean, actually, where he truly went was not just quickly run some errands around the house. He went all the way to the area of his mother's house and went to that Lowe's and went to that CVS in Danvers, which is even a little further from his mother's house, right? It's actually quite far from there. It's not just like right at his mother's house. Like, what the hell? Can't even keep his story straight with what he dropped off at home. She noticed that the eldest had a new iPad, and she said that Brian's mom often bought them new devices. She said all the children did not mention Anna at all that day, which was completely out of the norm. Now, one day Brian told them not to mention Anna. So on January 2nd, now we go to January 2nd of 2023, right? So we've looked at December 31st, we've looked at January 1st. January 2nd of 2023. He's got more Google searches. 12:45 p.m. Hacksaw, best tool for dismembering a body. January 2nd at 1:10 p.m. Can you be charged?
Sir, you're guilty as hell. Based on your Google searches alone, you are guilty as all hell. You're guilty as hell, man.
Charged with murder without a body. Yes. I think he now found out, right? And then at 1:14 p.m., can you identify a body with broken teeth? Oh my word. Data shows that Brian was at Home Goods in Norwell between 9:30 and 9:44 a.m. purchasing 3 rugs and other items. But Brian had told the police that the only place that he visited was an ice cream store called Press with his son. which he was present at 9:58 a.m.
A Norwell restaurant, Press Juice, showing us security camera footage of Walsh walking around the store on the morning of Monday, January 2nd. Now, in court documents, Brian Walshe admits to bringing his oldest son there. Walsh was under a modified house arrest as he awaited sentencing on selling fraudulent art.
So he said that's the only place he went. He would not mention Home Goods or the Home Depot, okay? Now, he's on surveillance at Home Depot in Rockland between 4:12 and 4:56 p.m. buying 3 mops and brushes, 2 large clear tops, drop cloth, 2 rolls of Scotch heavy-duty tape, a Tyvek suit with hood boot coveralls, so it's like a Dexter suit, right? A mop bucket with wringer, 3 buckets with lids, 2 splash resistant goggles, soft grip utility knife, 2 12-pound bags of baking soda, and a hatchet. Oh my goodness. So this is now on January 2nd. So if we now continue here, we go to January 2nd. Okay, this is the Press Juice Bar, January 2nd. And he also went to the Home Depot on January 2nd. And this one he didn't mention to the police. He's like, oh yeah, I was in that area, but I was here. I was here at this Press Juice Bar. And they do have surveillance of that, right? And so he went there. And afterwards, we go to January 3rd. Okay, so we're all caught up with January 2nd with these very shady activities and just making like it's so innocent. Now, do remember, he was on house arrest, okay? In case I didn't mention that, I did mention it, but just like remember that all these trips he's doing is also violating his parole conditions. He's not allowed to travel that far, and he's not allowed to travel whenever he wants. He had windows of time in which he could travel. Now, going to the Press Juice Bar was in the window of time that he was allowed to travel, but he just quickly snuck in Home Goods and Home Depot. So on January 2nd of 2023, he has a picture. Look at him. Look at him wearing the gloves. Look at the mask. Oh, my word. Look at this cart full of items. Like, dude, what are you doing? Oh, my word. Investigators have tracked Brian's movements using his cellular device's native location data to include a trip to Derby Street in Hingham after leaving Home Depot. The data shows he arrives at approximately 5:15 p.m. and leaves at approximately 5:32 p.m. on January 2nd of 2023. The video has been obtained and observed that shows Brian had left his jacket in the car and removed the black face mask and blue rubber gloves he was wearing while at the Home Depot. The video shows Brian walk to a trash can and discard small trash bags. Now, unfortunately, most of these dumpsters that he visited, especially after he allegedly dismembered, well, I could actually say he dismembered Anna's body because he's admitted to that, right? Remember, he's pleaded guilty. If you didn't know, he's pleaded guilty to lying to the police and to disposing of Anna's body. Okay, so dismembering her. But he has not pleaded guilty because you can't, by Massachusetts law, plead guilty to first-degree murder. So that's still on the table. That's what the trial's going to be about. Anyway, it's going to be very interesting. But lost my train of thought for a second there. What was I trying to say? Oh, I was trying to say that all these dumpsters that he visited, especially after Anna's body had been dismembered and he'd gone to all of these to throw heavy trash bags away, unfortunately, a lot of that trash went to incinerators, so they weren't able to recover it. But they did recover 10 trash bags near his mother's house. So on January 3rd now of 2023, oh man, he Googled some more. 1 or 2 p.m. What happens to hair on a dead body? What is the rate of decomposition of a body found in a plastic bag compared to body on surface in the woods? January 3rd, still at 1:20 p.m. Can baking soda make a body smell good?
What?
Wow. He doesn't just say, can you eliminate odor or reduce odor? He's like, can baking soda make a body smell good?
Weird.
So location data also showed that on January 3rd of 2023, Brian's cell phone was in the area of the Claremont apartment complex in Abington from 4:27 p.m. to 4:39 p.m. Investigators observed video from the area showing a man consistent with Brian's appearance exit Brian's Volvo and walk towards the dumpster carrying a garbage bag that appeared to be of significant weight. Subsequently, at approximately 4:48 p.m. to 4:52 p.m., Brian's device was in the area of the Point apartment complex in Abington, but there was no evidence of the dumpster area. Brian's device then went to the area of Chatham West apartment complex in Brockton from 5:10 to 5:16 p.m. Video from that area shows a man consistent with Brian's appearance exiting Brian's Volvo and discarding items in a dumpster. Investigators worked to track the dumpsters at various locations, but the items had already been shredded or incinerated by the evening of January 8th of 2023. So a lot of evidence has been lost, and they've never found Anna's body. But what they did find, I think it's enough to prove things, right? But it's just going to be a little tough to prove first-degree premeditated murder. Unless, don't you think that's a good angle to go? The financial motive. But we shall see what comes out of this trial. Now, if you want me to show you, let's just go back one step here, because on January 2nd, right, he was at this Home Depot and all of that. And then on January 3rd, he goes to this Claremont Apartments area to a dumpster, and he also goes to the Point at Abington, is what they said. Let's see the next point, Chatham West. Those are the three that they just mentioned. So if I zoom out from here, look at just if we orientate ourselves, here's the house. So remember on January 1st, he went northward. He went towards his mother's house in this area and did all sorts of shady things. Now we're on January 3rd. So January 2nd, of course, he went to the Press Juice Bar and bought all sorts of sinister tools and things, right? He bought tools already on January 1st up here at Lowe's, and then he also bought things at Home Depot and Home Goods on January 2nd. So on January 3rd, he's going to this area. So I think if you look at this, that's why I love visuals and maps and timelines and documents and things, right? If you like that too, like and share. So now he's going southwest from his house. I think he thought he's being really smart. Mixing up, switching up, all the locations he's going to. Today I'll go north. Tomorrow I'm going south. Then I'm going southwest. Okay. But they can see all of that, dude. They can see all of that, okay? Yeah, so now we go to January 4th. TJ Maxx is where he went because that's the priority, right? Buy some men's clothing for himself. Clearly, then he decided to throw away his clothing. Hey, so January 4th of 2023, after Anna's co-worker had reported her missing, so it wasn't Brian Walsh that reported his wife missing, even though he last saw her. He told police, sure, she left early for work on January 1st, and he tried to get hold of her, but he couldn't. Okay, it was a co-worker who reported her missing. Police went to her home, and then Brian Walsh told him. When they get there, he tells them, oh my, yeah, I'd like to file a missing persons report for her. He claimed that Anna left early on January 1st, 2023 for a work emergency, and that she left between 6 and 7 a.m. He described exactly what she was last seen wearing, and 10 trash bags that they found had those items in it. So that is very damning. That is just amazing karma and fate and all of that, right? So that's what they found. He said that she took a Lyft or an Uber to Logan Airport. They got all the records for that. There was no such ride that day. He's for her, right, and from their house. And she didn't board a plane or anything like that. He said that he tried to reach out to her, but he's not had any response from her. Reminder, her phone last pinged at the house at 3:14 a.m. on January 2nd of 2023. And Anna had a flight booked for January 3rd of 2023, but there were no Lyft or Uber records for her, and she didn't board a plane on January 1st, and she missed, of course, her flight on January 3rd. Now, Anna was entered into the NCIC as a missing and endangered person, and they also found that there was no financial activity for any of her accounts, and there was like 5 different bank accounts, credit cards, debit cards, this account, that account, right, for Anna from January 1st of 2023, which also shows there's no proof of life since that day, and there still hasn't been any proof of life since then. So we continue with January 4th of 2023. Brian went to Home Goods and TJ Maxx, or another Home Goods, okay? And TJ Maxx in Norwell. In fact, another visit to Home Goods. He went to the same one he went to before, but he revisited this Home Goods on January 4th. And this time, he bought 3 white towels and 2 bath mats from Home Goods, and then he bought various articles of men's clothing at TJ Maxx. At 4:15 p.m., he went to Lowe's, where he then purchased squeegees and a large kitchen-style trash barrel. Okay, so now what are you doing? Cleaning up, making pretty with white towels and bath mats? On January 4th of 2023 at approximately 6:35 p.m., Detective Schmidt arrived at the Walsh residence for a follow-up investigation, at which time he conducted an audio-recorded interview with Brian. At the conclusion of the interview, Brian consented to a search of the house and surrounding property. Brian led Detective Schmidt around the residence and property and identified items of potential interest in the missing person investigation. Before leaving the scene, Detective Schmidt observed the back of a 2019 Volvo XC90 bearing the Massachusetts registration public record with the third row raised. Lining the floor of the trunk area was an opaque off-white thin piece of plastic. The next day, Detective Schmidt went back and re-interviewed Brian. At the conclusion of the interview, Brian consented to a search of the Volvo. The third row seat was now folded down and the floor mats were laid on the floor of the trunk. There was light brown dirt on the floor mats. The carpet on the floor of the truck appeared freshly vacuumed, and when Detective Schmidt asked Brian where the plastic trunk liner was from the night before, he stated that he put it in the trash cans. January 5th of 2023. He used his Volvo to transport and discard the victim's body with other items related to the crime. Brian's cell phone location data shows that he traveled to the area of the dumpster at his mother's apartment complex. This is public record, on Paradise Road in Swampscott on January 5th of 2023 at approximately 9:30 a.m. The items recovered from that dumpster. So he went back to that area, back to his mother's house, right? Okay, on January 5th, just like it'd been on January 1st. Now they're on January 5th. The items recovered from that dumpster, including numerous items heavily stained with red or brown in color, consistent with blood, were a purse and boots consistent with those belonging to Anna Walsh, a COVID-19 vaccination card in the name Anna Walsh. They all provide probable cause to believe that Anna Walsh was killed and that she and the items were dumped in the garbage by Mr. Brian Walsh. Brian visited 6 dumpsters in 5 days, and they say especially between January 3rd and 5th. So between, of course, the 1st and the 5th, or 1st and the 6th, he was going all over the place, but he went to a lot of different dumpsters, particularly in a very narrow time frame. The dumpsters were located in Abington, Brockton, and Swampscott. Evidence found at the dumpster at his mother's house included towels, rags, slippers, plastic sheeting, tape, a Tyvek suit, gloves, cleaning agents, carpets, rugs, hunter boots, the same as Brian described Anna last seen wearing, a Prada purse, foreign currency, Anna's vaccination card, a hacksaw, a hatchet, heavy-duty cutting shears, and a hammer. Many items contained red or brown stains consistent with blood. Preliminary testing on a portion of a rug, which was heavily stained and red or brown in color, showed a substance consistent with baking soda, and we know you Googled that. Scrapings from the rug also revealed a metal bar with the name Gucci imprinted on it, consistent with the necklace that Anna wore in photos, which I think is that one. I think that photo shows the necklace quite clearly. So here, from the search warrants, it said a state crime lab performed testing on selected items secured from the dumpster. The slippers, the Tyvek suit, and a tissue showed the presence of DNA. Further testing of the DNA from the slippers and the sleeve cuffs of the Tyvek suit matched Anna with Brian as a contributor. Oh my. DNA testing of the exterior left pant leg and the interior right sleeve of the Tyvek suit and from the tissue included Anna as a contributor. Now let's go back to the map quickly and just look at what he was doing on this day. Here we go. January 4th, back to the Slows, and January 5th, going back towards his mother's house, right? As we just know, when he was at that dumpster. And thank goodness, because that trash was in Swampscott, was actually taken to a landfill, and that was in Peabody. And so they traveled there. They first wanted to know, where did this trash go? It went to Peabody. They went there and they found these 10 trash bags with all these incriminating things in it, including that hatchet and this Tyvek suit and all of that, which you could see that he bought. So I can't wait for them to tie this all together. On January 7th of 2023, Brian Walshe was interviewed by the police at 1:30 p.m. at his residence. His electronics, if you're wondering what happened on January 6th, oh, his electronics were taken for analysis, all of them, the kids' iPads, his phones, everything, right? And given back to him on January 7th. On January 7th at 5:18 a.m., Detective Schmidt received an email from a Gmail account, Richard Walker, I've just redacted the last little bit, with a username, Richard Walker, which stated the following. We have the so-named Anna Walshe with us here. We had a deal worth $127,000. She messed up. We have her here with us, and if she doesn't pay the money, then she'll never be back, and we know that the police and the FBI are involved. Good luck finding us. Okay. Investigators are considering this email suspicious because there's no timeline to respond to the demand and no contact instructions. Now that could just be a hoax, which unfortunately we see this happen a lot in cases when somebody's missing. You know, there'll always be some kind of ransom message or email like this, which is very unfortunate that people do this. But it could also be Brian Walshe that did this, right? I don't know. But let me know what you think. Do you think that was like a hoax, or do you think it was Brian Walshe coming up with some other genius plan? Investigators spent majority of the day on January 7th reviewing surveillance from the CVS and the Whole Foods where Brian said he was on January 1st near his mother's house, and realized that he had lied to them about his whereabouts. There was no evidence of him being in that Whole Foods or in that CVS. He went to another CVS, as they later clarified. But yeah, that's why he was initially charged with misleading the police or misleading a police investigation. They also reviewed data extracted from the devices, and obviously this that we have, even though it's hundreds of pages of documents, and if you put it all together, probably thousands, right? Yeah, we still don't know everything, of course not. We might know 10%, 20% of what's going on here, so I can't wait for this trial to see all the evidence that they have against him. January 8th of 2023, a search warrant was executed at Brian Walshe's home. By the way, while they were searching the home, at one point they noticed that the pool, the water was completely dark. There were like rocks in it and everything, and he had the filter running, and they were asking, why do you have the filter running? So they actually drained the pool at some point because they thought, well, damn, what is he hiding in here? What happened here? They didn't find anything. Surfaces and floors in the home were tested. Multiple locations in the basement and the staircase leading down to the basement tested positive for blood. A knife that tested positive for blood was located next to multiple bottles of hydrogen peroxide inside a cabinet above the kitchen's refrigerator. Now, some of his cleaning product purchases include him buying hydrogen peroxide. The prosecutor has been quoted saying 13 different types of hydrogen peroxide. I saw 8 different, and I won't say types because it's more like 5 bottles of liquid hydrogen peroxide, 4 sets of like hydrogen peroxide wipes and things like that. But we're going to hear more about that, I'm sure, at the trial, right? Okay, and obviously these would be also luminol tests. Now, Brian could not explain the Google searches. He tried to say that his son did it, but police pointed out that there were no spelling mistakes. He then tried to...
There ain't no way he can defend a Google search. I'm sorry. It ain't no way in the hell he can defend a Google search. He ain't no damn way.
say that Anna did it, but he could not explain how, if she'd already left. Like if she had started to Google how long does it take for a dead body to smell. That was just before 5 a.m. If she left between 6 and 7, what about all the other searchers that were in a very similar, category the rest of the day? So you think Anna did it and then your son did it, or what? I think you did it, Brian Walshe. I think you did it. They better bring all these Google searches into this trial, right? For a long time, of course, the defense has tried to keep these Google searches out, and there's been some speculation and debate out there, especially between legal experts, of will these Google searches come in, especially now that he's pleaded guilty to dismembering Anna's body and disposing of her body and lying to the police. Will that come in? Because the Google searches are all about what to do with the body afterwards. So I hope they all come in. We want to hear all the Google searches. We want to see the messages. We want to know everything that this guy did, right? Now, on January 8th of 2023, He was arrested and he was charged with intentionally misleading a police investigation based on, the day before them saying he was not in Whole Foods or CVS at all. January 9th of 2023, his Volvo was swabbed and the weather mat in the trunk and electronic adjustment buttons along the driver's seat indicated the presence of blood. And then on January 18th of 2023, he was charged with first-degree murder, misleading a police investigation, and improper conveyance of a human body.
January 2023, with assault, defeat Brian Walshe, with intent to murder that person. They're also charged with returning of a body in without lawful authority, did willfully dig up or remove human remains. Not guilty pleas to the entry.
Brian remains in custody without bail. He's at the Norfolk County Sheriff's Correctional Center. The couple's 3 children are in state custody. Anna's mother, Milanka Knip, is seeking guardianship from Serbia, but she was at the time, I don't have an update on this, but facing visa issues. On September 11th of 2025, Brian was stabbed by another inmate at the Norfolk County Sheriff's Correctional Center. Following this incident, he was sent to Bridgewater State Hospital in Bridgewater, Massachusetts for his mental competency evaluation, where he stayed for 40 days. Initially, he was supposed to stay for 20. They extended it to 40 days, and at the end, he was found competent to stand trial. Now, where's Hans now? I know here at Grizzly True Crime, we are big-time animal lovers. And I don't know why some people get mad at it when we ask, well, where are the animals now, right? But I want to know, so I had a look, okay? And Anna Walshe had posted these pictures of Hans. She said, even Hans made it to the beach today. Is this a canine? Is it a military dog? She said, the answer is, of course, yes. Shame, Hans. So, Hans is accounted for. Cohasset police confirmed to NBC 10 Boston that the dog is in its custody and being cared for. Cohasset police can confirm that it is taking care of the family's dog in its shelter until a family member can take custody of him. He is well cared for, police said in an email. Now, I saw some comments on social media saying that one of the police officers actually adopted Hans. I can't confirm that. It's just a social media comment. But it seems like Hans is doing okay. And I mean, Hans was also then in the house, right, at the time when Brian Walshe allegedly murdered Anna and dismembered her body. Like kids in the house, dog in the house, nannies in and out. Oh, my goodness. Jury selection started on November 18th of 2025. And on that same day, Brian pleaded guilty to the 2 lesser charges. We were all a little surprised, right? Was anyone surprised? I would have expected, I mean, I'm still worried. Like, is he going to actually plead, he can't plead guilty to first-degree murder. But is the state going to offer him some sort of deal last minute or not? Or are they going to go ahead with this trial? I'm wondering, I have this, gut feel oh, man, what if they do offer that, right? Because there is a detective involved in this investigation, which you might know from the Karen retrial, and Michael Proctor. Yes, so a lot of the search warrants have his name on it as well. So I think the defense is going to bring that up big time if this trial goes ahead, which it is planned to. It is set to. I'm believing that it will. I'm just a little what are they going to do? Because they could offer him a plea deal saying, okay, plead guilty to second-degree murder, and you'll get a lesser sentence. So instead of life without parole, maybe he'll be eligible for parole at some point. Of course, he'll also be sentenced for the other 2 lesser charges, right?
Dozens were interviewed, but on day 3 of jury selection, only 4 more were picked. Just enough to make the 16 total jurors that the judge says is necessary for trial.
Anyway, we'll have to just see what happens from here. And so he pleaded guilty. If you missed that live stream, we actually watched that together, so go check it out. It's on the playlist. Now, opening statements begin. December 1st of 2025, Anna's body has never been recovered, making this a challenging case for the state to prove. But based on everything you've seen here today, do you think they can prove it? Do you think it's going to be a challenge? What do you think is the biggest obstacle for them? Now, the judge is Diane Frenier. Very snarky, very strict lady. I think we like her so far. We'll have to have a look how this whole trial runs, right? But she was very snarky, very direct in what we've seen so far. The prosecutors are Assistant District Attorney Greg Connor and Tracy Kusick from the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. And the defense is Larry Tipton and Kelly Porges. I hope I'm saying that right. The trial is set to last 2 to 3 weeks. I feel ready. Do you feel ready? I'm so ready. Now, what I do also want to show you, besides, okay, we finished our map, right? Yes. Okay, is this document over here, which thank you to Grizzly Cat for sending me all these documents and catching me up as well. You know, we've been following this case for a while, but here and there, a refresher and the search warrants and the PCA and everything is wonderful. She also sent me this, which is from an article from, I think it was Boston News, right? And it's actually got the potential witness list. You see here, keepers of records. So of course we would see people from Verizon, from Vin and Liquors in Swampscott where you went to that dumpster and there's surveillance footage and all of that. You know, from these different apartments, from American Express and the bank account, all of that. And then civilians, you can see this is the list of potentials. You can just pause to read if you want to. I'm very interested to see Will Festo, the guy that Anna was having an affair with. I want to see him take the stand as well. The babysitter, who I think her name, there we go, is Robin. This one, I think this is her. The babysitter. To hear about his demeanor on January 1st, especially. Oh my word, that's the same day that he allegedly murdered Anna, right? Whoa, so his demeanor, to expand on that, will be interesting as well. Just all of the, I want to hear all of them, of course. We've got crime lab personnel. We want to hear all their findings, of course. The Cohasset Police Department, right? Massachusetts State Police, as you can see who they might call here, right? You see this long list of people, so it's just a potential list. They might not call all these people. That would take forever. But they say the trial is set to last 2 to 3 weeks. So even when they have a list like this, oftentimes if they have, let's say they could call on 50 witnesses, maybe they call on 25 or 30. We'll have to wait and see. Medical examiners, shame. They haven't found any of Anna's remains. Just, you know, the blood that tested positive for being Anna's, and also for Brian being a contributor to all of that found in the dumpster. So yeah, that's going to be interesting as well. So nobody knows how she was murdered. That's also a huge challenge, right? We recently watched a trial, which was the Matthew Paul trial, and while it was not a no-body case, it was very challenging because they had no idea what the cause of death was of the victim. But the state proved it, and that guy was sentenced to life without parole. So you never know. And I do think that this Brian Walsh, I mean, he's wronged his family, he's wronged art collectors, and he's allegedly a domestic abuser, and now he's accused of first-degree murder? And his kids are in, you know, state custody with DCF? No, I think he should be life without paroled, right? You see, here's this defense, oh my word. Is the defense calling Michael Proctor to the stand? Oh, they're going to use that, huh? They're going to use that. That's going to be interesting. So I hope that you found this informative. I love timelines, obviously everything chronological, putting that together with maps and just trying to figure this all out. And thank you to all of you who support the work that I do, whether you like, share, and comment. Those things help so much. If you subscribe as well, become part of this community. Thank you to those who also go the extra step with, you know, buy me a coffee, PayPal, joining Patreon, joining membership. I really, really appreciate it. You are the reason that I'm able to do this full time, and I will most certainly see you at the trial, okay? I'll see you in court. I will have my court blazer on, and I'm so ready to watch this trial with you. Thank you so much for watching, and in the meantime, stay safe.
And that's it. With that being said, I thank y'all for showing up, being here. Like, share, subscribe. See y'all later. Peace.